I love this arcane. Primary Bulwark was introduced with the old piece, acquired from the Descendia. As far as arcanes go, it has one of the simplest stat lines in existence. Gain plus 1% damage for each unit of armor past 1000, up to a max of plus 500%. In other words, if you have 1500 or more armor, you have plus 500% damage on your primary weapon. Regular viewers may have noticed that I am a Lavos main. Lavos, the frame that with no modding at all has 675 armor, meaning 1350 with steel fiber equipped, and 1500 if you add a single Azure Archon shard to that. At this point, the Bulwark damage buff is permanently active even with a lower tank setup. If you use a full Umbral set like I do, you don't even need the Archon shard. I still use one to go over 2000 armor for the looks of it, but that's unimportant. It's not just Lavos that can do this. With the 100% armor bonus from steel fiber, Valkyrie and Corvex both immediately pass the threshold for full damage bonus. With the 180% bonus from a full Umbral set, this extends to Kalervo as well, and Atlas if you include an Archon shard. I mention Atlas, but he doesn't even need to mod for armor, let alone go Umbral about it. Atlas, Chroma, Oberon, Grendel, Hydroid and Wukong can all use abilities to substantially enhance their armor over the threshold too. Atlas and Wukong have a fixed limit of 1500 armor from their respective abilities, which, atop their base, is plenty. Grendel is limited to 1250 from his passive, but then also has enough innately to squeak over line with no further support. Chroma, Oberon and Hydroid, however, are limited only by their overall modding. If you wish to extend it to yet other frames, the options of Hell Conversion or arcanes like Arcane Tanker make gaining over 1000 armor very accessible. Some frames need to put in more effort, others are called Lavos and just keep winning. Not to get ahead of myself, why is this arcane so valuable then? We already have the Steel Path arcanes for pure damage bonuses, each providing plus 360% damage at full stack alongside additional benefits. Merciless also grants a reload speed bonus, Deadhead grants a headshot damage and recoil bonus, Dexterity grants a melee combo duration bonus. How does Bulwark measure up to these standards? Taking the most damaging, the Deadhead arcane, it provides a total damage bonus of 498%, assuming you have no other additive bonuses with it. Compare that to Bulwark's 500%, the difference is basically nothing, yet Deadhead also grants the recoil buff. Where you can meet its activation criteria, that is, intermittent headshot kills and sustained headshot damage, then Deadhead is at worst functionally equal with no armor demand. But therein lies the beauty for Bulwark. It is uncompromising on power once you meet the full armor demand, and it has no stacking needed. It's more powerful than Primary Merciless or Dexterity, it doesn't need headshots, it doesn't need kills to activate it. Bulwark works equally strong at basically all times, such as immediately after being revived or deep into a boss fight. It is, in a word, reliable. When we compare it to the other two Acolyte arcanes, Bulwark's net damage bonus is only 30% more than Dexterity or Merciless, and just 4% weaker alone than combining those arcanes with Serration. For mid-tier weapons, I often encourage using Serration or similar mods to boost the floor of the weapon's damage to account for being forced to fight stackless at any point. In a Bulwark setup, Serration is completely unnecessary, as the damage floor is already many times higher than what Serration would add. Because of this, Bulwark expands the setup to be able to safely accommodate a higher maximum damage, such as with galvanized mods that would otherwise leave you too undergeared when missing stacks. Alternatively, you can broaden a weapon, equipping a more slot-intensive elemental setup, or applying further critical modding, or using a quality of life mod like increased magazine. Essentially, you either gain at least 30% more damage at all times, at the expense of reload speed or melee combo duration, or you lose at most 4% damage while gaining a whole mod slot to either fix that or build utility. The trend continues when modding for a boss fight. If you're in a fight where there won't be enemies to stack up galvanized mods and Acolyte arcanes, previously primary weapons would have been stuck with primary frostbite as the next best choice. This can stack from cold on a secondary or companion, so the need to apply lots of cold isn't a modding issue for the primary itself. However, Bulwark demolishes the result. Comparing the best case scenario for frostbite, using a support companion, this Bulwark variant on the Foreman Prime, for example, comes out ahead by 39% in sustained damage output. Against bosses which are immune to cold, forcing you into using Primary Blight and a Toxin build, or worse options still, Bulwark just gets even more ahead. Exact percent improvement will vary from weapon to weapon, but you'll never be worse off. The only real downside to Bulwark is the hopefully obvious issue of needing the armor in the first place. Some effects will reduce your armor mid-mission, and this does dynamically affect the power of Bulwark. For example, a single heat proc on this Umbral Lab Loss is enough to near entirely disable primary Bulwark. Thankfully, many armor tanks also have some form of status resistance or cleansing, but it's still a threat to be mindful of. In terms of interactions, primary Bulwark will work just as readily on your heavy weapon like it does on your primary weapon. The two don't cross over, so it's not like your heavy weapon's arcane will cause your primary to deal 1000% more damage. As for stacking, Bulwark's damage bonus is simple pure damage, additive to Serration and similar bonuses. This means it multiplies with Galvanized Aptitude damage bonuses only when Aptitude would also multiply with Serration. Otherwise, it's additive. And as far as I can see, that's all there is to primary Bulwark. It really is a no-nonsense arcane that leans into the passive reliability that health tanks frequently embody. Certainly, when it comes to taking on boss fights, at least when dealing with ones not already cheesed into oblivion, it is a core arcane that I cannot recommend enough for any setup meeting a simple armor threshold. Even when running armor a little lower, such as 1300 instead of the 1500 cap, you'll still get a 300% damage bonus with 0 kills or stacks required. It's been a long time since we had a broadly competitive primary arcane for outright damage, so go ahead and grab your beefy armor tank of choice and bring the power with your primary. While you're at it, support the channel with the Patreon link down below. That's all from me on this topic, so as always, skip stacks, min max, and fight well, Tenno.